You just have to put it somewhere. First, it is one. We'll start.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. Welcome everyone to IO, and a very warm welcome to people who are joining us from different countries. Hello to all our guests who are joining us on Facebook Live and on Instagram. Acha, for people who are physically present, if you need anything at all, Wahid, my team members, and if you need to go to the washroom, you have to go outside or this corner here. If you need internet access, you can just ask us for the password and we'll get that to you. If you need anything else, if you have any questions, just raise your hand and we'll be happy to listen to you. English सब easily बोल लेते हैं क्योंकि obviously multicultural रूल्स में panel है. Okay. So hello everyone. First of all, for this interfaith harmony, we're just going to talk about how important it is to have this interfaith harmony and why we need to promote this. So, and in order to do that, I'm just going to start with our first guest, Zoe Pikati. Hello, Zoe, can you hear me?
Yes, Zaim, I can hear you. Do you think I should move into headphones or just use my, can everyone hear me all right?
Yeah, I think we can hear you. That's
Okay.
perfect. Thank you. So, Zoe, thank you for joining us.
Welcome.
And you're joining us all the way from Karachi. I think we all know Zoe. She's a Ghost Radio sensation. She's a singer-songwriter joining us from Karachi. So, Zoe, I just want to talk about interfaith harmony, right? Because I know we know that you're raised in a family with parents from different religious backgrounds.
Yeah.
So, could you maybe talk a little bit about that?
So yeah, I am definitely. Basically, I'll just check once again. Can everyone hear me all right? Okay. Still hear me? Because I can't hear anyone else right now. I'm sorry.
I'm the only one talking here, so
Okay.
I should
All
talk
right.
about that.
Okay, so yeah, so I mean, I grew up in a family of who they were an interfaith marriage, and my father is Zoroastrian. I'm not sure if any. I'm sure some of you might know Zoroastrians are also called Parsis, mostly in India and Pakistan. So my father was a Zoroastrian, and my mother is a Christian. So, first of all, when they got married, I think automatically my father, I would not say he was excommunicated from his community, but he realized that marrying outside the community definitely had some repercussions. There's limitations on, the children being able to convert into the religion, or you can't convert unless mostly it's like your father should be, a Parsi. So, but when my father married my mother, I think they had a discussion on what the children should be. And I think at that moment in time, they decided now whether it was a lack of being able to come up to a decision or whether this was the decision that they made at the time, but they decided to let us choose our own religions at the age of 15 or 16. So at 15 or 16, we were supposed to choose our religions. Can you still hear me, Zaim?
Yeah, we can hear you.
But we
Everyone
not
can
see.
still hear me? Okay, fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can see you though. I think we lost video.
You can see me also?
I can't see you because I think the cameras. It's a camera shut off.
Yeah. Now have a look. Now can you see me?
No, still can.
बाकी पैनलिस्ट से पूछें क्या वो नहीं देख पा रहा
Can the other panelists see Zoe at the moment?
No, so I can only see Arpita. That's all I can see.
Yeah, I think, have you tried pressing the middle button there? The video button, Zoe?
Yeah, I'm pressing the video button. There we go.
Yeah, now we can see you.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Sorry about that.
No worries about that. So, you said your parents waited for the age of 16 for you to maybe choose
So
your
yeah,
own
so
faith.
they said decided that at the age of 16 we could decide what we wanted to, which religion that we wanted to choose. And so with that came the responsibility of each parent, kind of trying to bring us up in such a way that we each had, a proper know-how of each religion before we could make our decision. My mother, who was very avid about Christianity and about going to church, I think automatically we had a lot more um, a lot more exposure to the Christian faith because we went to church every Sunday. There was Easter, there was Christmas. We celebrated all of those. I remember we went to Sunday school. Even in class, we had for our O levels, we had Christian for biblical studies. So I think I had a very, very round education in Christianity, in the faith of Christianity. My father, who was extremely busy with work, would every now and then realize that, oh no, he needs to keep up to date with these things, and he'd keep giving us literature, or he'd keep giving us talks on Zoroastrianism, on the faith of Zoroastrianism. He had a couple of priests from the Parsi, from the temple, talk to us and try to give us a holistic thing. So now, what happened at the age of 15? My little sister, she chose to be a Christian, and she was baptized. And my brother and I sort of stayed in the middle. And for me, I think it was because I felt that, I was very confused because I had studied so much about the Christian faith. I've been brought up in a Muslim country. I've heard so much about, I've learned so much about Islam. I've also sat in on my friends, when they had their Islamic studies going on, or they'd have the Maulvis who would come to their houses and be teaching them. I used to sit on those classes. So I also had a lot. I had also learned. And I didn't know. I said, do I really need to choose a religion and go with a particular religion? Do I have to choose? So for the longest time, I didn't choose. And I think it was because I really felt the philosophy of each religion, of all the religions. I thought there was something so interesting to learn from each religion. I loved, the idea of forgiveness that is, so much in Christianity. I love that in the Parsis, it's more open. It's good thoughts, good words, good deeds. It's such a great philosophy to live your life by. And so the honest truth is, I didn't choose, and I did pray. I think by default I prayed, as a Christian would, making the sign of the cross. And because I'd gone to a church, I knew all the prayers, I knew all the hymns, but I also had studied about Zoroastrianism. So I think I kind of did like a mix of everything. It's almost like I had my own amalgamation of the religions going. And it's only recently that I actually was baptized, and now I've just got married a year ago, and I've married uh, uh, a man who is also from a Muslim. So I think we're going to have the same discussion very soon about what the kids are going to be, and we're going to we're going to be figuring out that pretty soon. So that's kind of a gist of where I'm coming from.
Interesting experience, I think, growing up in a family where religion is a bit of a choice. It's not something that you're told to follow, and you have these multiple paths laid out in front of you. So, okay, is there any misconception about the Parsi community in particular, the Zoroastrians, or the
I think
Christians?
as a Zoroastrian, the only misconception I've ever heard is, people say, oh, you guys worship fire. And, that's something that everyone seems to think about Parsis. And I always try and clarify. And I said, no, it's more of a symbol, and fire is just a strong symbol in the Parsi religion. It's not that the Parsis worship. And I say that, I try to explain as much as I can, but obviously it's a matter of people also reading up on it themselves. One good misconception about, not misconception, but conception of Parsis generally in Pakistan, I would say, have a very good reputation as being a very honest community, You know, everyone always wants to buy a Parsi-owned car because they always think that Parsis take care of their cars very well. I think that's a misconception. I know some young Parsis who really kill their cars, but that's I think generally Parsis are known as good, good business people, very honest community, and so if anything, I would say they have a good reputation and good conceptions, about Parsis.
If, I'm sorry if I'm pointing this out. It also seems like a bit of positive discrimination because I think people tend to have the same stereotypes about say Jewish community as well. That they're very good with money, like they take care of it. Is that
Yeah, so I mean, it is. I mean, even in my own family, I don't know if it's very politically correct, but I feel we're in a safe space and I can say it. So if I'm being a little bit conservative about money, or if I don't want to spend on something, my mother tells me stop being a Parsi. It's like it's a known thing that the Parsis are kind of very careful with their money. In fact, I think it's almost apt that the word parsimonious and Parsi are so close together. Um, but yes, they are known for being very business minded, being very careful about money, being very careful about their cars, and I think that's the older generation. And times need seem to be changing. But yes, that is a misconception that Parsis are very tight fisted with their money. And yeah, I try to clarify people. I say no, I think I'm the only Parsi who's left like that. I don't think that's true about all the Parsis.
Thank you so much. Is there anything that you think that the state of Pakistan or the Pakistani people can do to help promote interfaith harmony in Pakistan?
Um, I think that among our own friends and our own community, I have not myself. I think I've been very fortunate not to experience anything because of my religion, or any kind of mistreatment, or any kind of unfairness because of my religion. I wonder if it's because I'm so neutral, and I think people aren't able to place me so much in any particular thing. But I know among our own community, among our own friends, in the schools that I've gone to, in the things that I've been part of, I haven't felt that there's been any kind of discrimination. I haven't faced discrimination. But Zaim, that could also be a class thing, because I know that my band boys, who are Christian and they're darker skinned Christians, they definitely face discrimination. I know that when we sometimes go to a hotel, like if we have a concert in a hotel, sometimes these boys aren't let in, and I have a feeling that also has to do with. I think it's a very sensitive mix of the religion plus the financial side of things, the class system. So I don't know if that's religion basically, but I definitely think it's a class thing.
Thank you so much, Zoe. Are there any questions for Zoe Mikaji, especially regarding, say, the Parsi community or the Christian community? I think she's
Also, the
very
Parsi, I want to say the Parsi community themselves are also very closed off, I think, from the rest of. Generally, I found that we have a place called the Cyrus Colony, we have a place called the Parsi Colony. Parsis do clump together, and they do very much stay to themselves. So I think from outsiders coming into the Parsi community, I think that's more difficult. I think Parsis definitely mix and merge into the Muslim society and Christian societies very easily. I would say that's the opposite. A Muslim or a Christian being among the Parsis, I think, is tougher. It's just a note. I don't know what that might mean, but I mean, I'm just telling you off the top of my head, that's something that came to mind.
And thank you so much, Zoe. Thank you so much for attending. We're
All
going
right.
to move on to our other panelists. Thank you for sharing your experience.
Thank you.
Zain?
I think mic is on.
Right.
Could you I'm sorry.
Okay, so next I would like to invite a panel. And most of these people are from America. So I'd like to welcome Chance Tesna, Elizabeth Bargello, and Makai Saleh, and Dimea Pinky.
You're breaking up a little bit.
Okay, welcome to bio. Can you hear?
Hello?
Hello? Yeah, can you hear me?
But let's like
So if the other members, anyone
Hello?
other than Chance, Elizabeth, Gulmate, and Dimea, if you can just turn off your mics, please.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. I hope you can all hear me.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So again, thank you all for coming. I know it's like really early in
Hello?
the US. Hi. Hello.
So the connection seems like it may be breaking up.
Although we can switch to some other
Can you hear me?
Um, okay. Just a moment, please. Chance.
Okay, you can do it.
Okay. Chance, can you hear me?
हमें switch करना पड़ेगा किसी और पहले बेस की तरफ
Right.
I think it's on mute though.
Oh, Chance is muted.
yeah
Chance, can you unmute yourself, please?
she cannot
Okay, I'm sorry about that. So let's move on to the other panelists. Elizabeth, Gulmatai, and Timea, are you with us?
We are. Or I am.
Okay, Timea,
Yes, I'm
and
here.
perfect. That's great. So we'll move on. Okay, again, thank you so much for the American panelists who are here. I know it's very early in the morning. Did you have nothing better to do than promote world peace this early in the morning, or? So, right. So I'm going to start off with Gulmakai. Are you there, Gulmakai?
Yes, I'm here.
Right. So it's such a powerful name, right? Gulmakai. I think it's an Afghan hero, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were a refugee child, I think, when you came to the US, and that was about 31, 32 years ago, I think. Is that true?
Yeah, about 38 years ago.
So how has it been? How has this journey been for you? Like, you've obviously interacted with a lot of different communities. You know a lot of different people around the world.
Yeah. First coming to the United States of America, I was only 4 years old. And it was a great shock for me and my family, a different culture, different language, different nationality. So we had to learn a lot. And in the process, we saw a lot of love. And at the same time, we saw a lot of negativity towards us because us being of a different nationality or different faith. But that's what brought me to where I am now, to promote goodness and love among the people of America. And I love doing that.
again
Any one of you can answer.
the mic was mute 20 seconds
Hello?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so the question is, how important is faith in your life, in your struggles?
How important is what? Can you please repeat that again?
Yeah, how important is faith or spirituality in your lives?
It's very important. It is. If it wasn't for my spirituality, I would have been probably very depressed and sad, because through my life, especially going to school, I was really bullied for being a Muslim. I wore my religion on my head, of course. It was obvious. Everyone knew I was a Muslim. And when I was in elementary school year, that was fine. But once I went into middle school, that's when all the bullying started for 3 years. And at the same time, it was the Iraq War, the first Iraq War, Desert Storm. It will always come on our TV in our classroom, and the kids would turn to me and poke fun on me, thinking I'm the Iraqi, I'm the one causing the war. So it was pretty hard. So, it was the religion, when I turned to God, where I seek the refuge and found that peace and that willingness to continue and live. And, if I could help myself, it was a good thing for me to take that and share with others that love and goodness I saw in my own faith.
3 children's books as well. Is that right?
Yeah, I have three children's books.
Yeah, and one of the books that I think really caught my attention, that was the Princess Diversity.
Yes.
Yeah. So could you tell us something a bit about that book? Like, what kind of messages are you trying to promote to children's literature?
So actually, all my books promote the golden rule, which is a belief in all religion or non-religion. I believe that that message will connect us and make our bond as humans stronger. Instead of focusing on our differences, let's focus on what we have that's similar. So I took the golden rule and put it in my second book, Princess Diversity and the Golden Rule, which relates to being bullied at school. And this young girl who's Princess Diversity, she has a diversity of different aspects and characteristics in her that kids who usually are different get bullied for. For example, she was poor, she wore glasses, she had freckles on her face, she had a handicap issue. So these are things kids get picked at in school, and she just becomes so strong, and she starts helping other kids who are bullied, and she applies the golden rule and teaches the bullies who bullies the other kids how to apply the golden rule and how it makes kids who are bullied feel. So that's one aspect I take from this book. The book is the golden rule, and share with others through my talks I give at an adult level too.
So I have a question for Elizabeth. Elizabeth Padiala, are you with us?
I'm here.
Yeah. So Elizabeth is a very successful entrepreneur, and she's given a number of talks. I saw her talk on TEDx, and if you haven't, it's called, I think, How a Pot of Coffee Changed My Life.
Yep.
Yeah, so you're a coffee lover, so am I. Yeah, I kind of left my medical career to make coffee. So I kind of understand. So, can you tell us a bit about yourself, and have you interacted much with members of other communities, particularly religious communities, minorities, and how has your interaction been with them?
I'm not sure I completely heard your question. Would you mind repeating it?
Yeah. So, in your journey, either as a personal journey or in your business, you must have come across members of different communities because you live in a very multicultural place. Yeah. So how has your interaction been, say, with the Muslim community?
So, first, thank you for having me. This is a real. I mean, you said, do you have nothing better to do than promote world peace? This is kind of important. So give yourself a lot of credit because what you're doing is fantastic. For me, I mean, I own a coffee company, and it started in the wake of losing my father. And when that happened, I very quickly became, the dad and the husband in my family too, and I had to figure out life for my mom and through a lot. And then, I'm not sure if I was part of the but a 9.5 foot wave hit my mom's home, and there were many points in the process where faith came into it, and what became clear was that you just need something bigger to believe in when things are really hard. And I was raised Roman Catholic, and family is the same. And my dad's from Italy, so a very Christian country. And what was interesting is that this coffee company started, and I started really connecting to the people that adopted the Unimatic coffee pot and that drank our coffee in the morning. And it became really clear that your rituals and your traditions are the thing that is really a secure base for you. And that thing that you do every day, whether it's, pray or meditate or have your coffee, whatever it looks like, that sacred time is, for me, it's an honor to be part of that. So I think I started really deepening in what is this? What could this be in a much broader sense? And when you think about coffee, it's something that I feel like I got really lucky. I played soccer or football when I was a kid. And now I am in coffee. And those are two things that a lot of the world really deeply understands and cares about. And it's not something like, baseball that is in the US, but isn't the most popular thing in other places. So there were two things that felt like they were very universal. And I think I'm just this way, or maybe it's because of the experiences I had, I'm not sure, but it felt like I wanted to do something greater with coffee because it did give this opportunity for, if coffee is this universal thing, that means that it could be a catalyst for change, right? Or at least that's the way I think. So I started something called Brave Conversations Over Coffee. And that is a series whereby we get people around a table that are very different from one another. And you asked specifically about communities. I mean, the very first one we had, or the very first structured one, when we were doing it and it had a name, I feel like I've been doing this for years, just, without a structure or a name. The very first one was actually with 9/11 survivors, first responders, the Muslim community, and students. And it was one of the most beautiful conversations I've ever gotten to witness. And over coffee, we got to be brave and share, something hard that we've been through that's made us stronger. And yes, there were Muslims, and yes, there were people that had been seeking asylum in the US and just got out of essentially detainment camp, waiting for their, to be given, to be able to live here. And there were also students who weren't alive during some of this stuff that people were referencing. And there was someone who, walked down a bunch of the stairs in the towers, and we all just came together and saw how much the human experience asks us to hold, and how if we can do it together, holding hands, we all really are taking action, ideally in love and not in fear. And when we're in fear is when we feel like we start to not like each other and we start to blame. And I think a lot of Brave Conversations Over Coffee, I think part of my goal is a lot of the time we tie up our self-concept and the way that we think of ourselves in, well, I hope that I am good. And if you're very different from me and you're good, that must mean I'm bad. So, wait, no, I must think you're bad so that I can retain my goodness. And that's just so wrong. And when you start to have these much deeper, much braver conversations, and coffee, makes it easy for people to come to the table, you can untangle that. And it's really beautiful.
So I'm just going to turn to Timea for a bit. Timea, are you there? Timea?
Yes, I am here.
Yeah, hi. So Timea is, I think, originally from Hungary. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. But you've been working in London, I think, and you travel a lot in general. I think.
Yes, I travel all the time, basically.
Yes, so Timea is a very successful is a social media marketer, I think. Is that right? You're a social media marketer?
Yes, I work in digital marketing, focusing on social media. Yes.
So you've probably traveled.
I can't hear you right now.
You've traveled quite a bit around the world, right? And you've probably come in contact with a lot of different communities. Can you hear me, Timea?
Okay, I'm not sure I heard your question. Can you repeat it, please?
Yeah, I didn't get to the question part. I was just kind of, I, was- I was just kind of, blushing over the number of countries that you visited. So the question is, how important do you think is faith in your life?
Okay. Well, I don't really have a religion as such. I like to call myself an observer, and I learned a lot during my travels, and I keep on learning new things, and I couldn't find a religion I could commit to. I find that every religion is basically teaching the same: be good to others, respect each other, be kind, and look after your family and friends, and try to do good to strangers. I think all of the religions basically have the same principles, um, which was this whole. Um, I was born in Hungary, and I don't know how much you know about Hungary in Pakistan or in the US. Most people, when they when they hear that I'm from Hungary, they ask me, "Do you want a biscuit? Do you want to go for dinner?" Obviously, making the joke as if I was hungry or not. Everybody makes this joke, so please, if you meet a Hungarian, do not make this joke because it's not funny if you hear it 60,000 times. Um, so, if you don't know much about Hungary, it's a small country in Eastern Europe. We like to say it's in Central Europe just to be closer to the West, but it's actually in Eastern Europe. And the Soviet Union occupied our country for a really long time, and we only became free in 1989. And it really defined, it really influenced how Hungarians are nowadays, because during the Soviet rule, Hungarians were not allowed to travel. Religion was oppressed. You were not allowed to believe or do whatever you wanted. Everything was reported. So it's only really in the past 30 years that Hungarians are allowed to travel and do what they want and believe in what they want. And when I was growing up, I spent most of my life in Hungary, um, up until 5 years ago when I started traveling. And up until that time, I wasn't exposed to any other culture or religion besides Christianity. I heard about Islam through the news and the media, which was mainly, uh, obviously, the bad news and terrorist attacks, and I was not exposed to any other religion when I was growing up. So obviously, it left a mark in me, and I developed some fear of Muslims when I was growing up. And when I started traveling and actually met Muslims in real life, and I went to mosques and spoke to imams, I realized that, oh my God, like everything, everything was a lie, and it was just people trying to gain power and trying to go us against each other, and I was manipulated. And since then, I've been trying to promote interfaith harmony and trying to fight against racism and misconceptions whenever I travel, especially focusing on Islam because I went through this. When I looked at a Muslim woman, I thought she was oppressed. I wanted to save her because all the books I read about Islam was about how Muslim women are treated badly in their countries and in their households. And I thought that all the Muslim women need to be saved from their evil husbands. And this is how many Eastern Europeans think nowadays, because it's simply because they're not exposed to this to Islam or to other religions. And before the low-cost airlines came to Hungary, not many people. I didn't really see many tourists in my country. I used to, when I saw somebody with a map, I used to go up to them and say, "Hey, can I help you?" So only just so that I can practice my English and learn about different cultures. I still do this, even though there's a lot of tourists in Hungary now, and travel became a lot cheaper, so Hungarians can travel. But it's only in the recent years that Hungarians can go abroad and travel, and people come to our country.
So, what kind of religious groups do you think there are in Hungary? Like, what's the dominant religion, and what are the minorities, and what kind of freedoms do they have in Hungary?
It is Christianity. That's Hungary is a Christian country, and not many other religions are present. When I started to study Islam and started to read the Quran, I tried to look up Muslim communities, and I found one mosque in Budapest, which is the capital of Hungary, where I went and I spoke to the Imam, and he was saying basically the same thing that I just told you, that not many Hungarians know what Islam really means, and it is a problem. And we would really need events like this where we can connect with each other with all the people from the world, different cultures, different religions, because this is the way to fight against the misconceptions. Yeah, but it is Christianity. There are a lot of churches, but I was not brought up in any faith. My parents just told me work hard and yes, be kind and be yourself. And they did not. I was not raised in a religious family.
Thank you so much. So, this is going to be a bit of a broad question, and this is for all the panelists right now. So, how do you think? What do you think is the best way to be promoting interfaith harmony? What's the best way for us to really know each other, understand our religions, to understand our motivations, to understand our political or social situations? How can we become better at understanding ourselves or each other?
I mean, I can start.
Yeah.
To me, I feel like the best way for us to, can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. Okay. To me, it feels like the best way that we can really start to understand each other is, in the US right now, at least, there's a lot of movement toward being vulnerable and sharing, sharing hard things. And that is beautiful and wonderful. And I will also say that, and I can only speak from my own experience, but here we're not really taught how to listen. And so a lot of what Brave Conversations Over Coffee teaches you, and my dad was in intelligence, and one of my greatest mentors was a hostage negotiator for 40 years. So a lot of my training around communication comes from actually a hostage negotiation, which is odd, but it's something that really, really deeply teaches you how to listen and how to drop any of your own judgments and any of your own assumptions or your own experiences, because your only job is to step into the experience of the other and be with them in it. And there's nothing that you need to do or fix or help or any of that. You just need to be present with that person and really make a conscious effort to feel what they're feeling and be with them and ask questions and, what was that like for you? And just really more deeply understand and then not be like listening, waiting for your turn to talk, but actually just, you don't matter, dropping all of your judgment and just listening. And I think, from what I've seen and from the Brave Conversations Over Coffee that we've run, and technically from science, that is actually how we do connect. And that is how we do start bonding. And that is how we do listen better, but also just understand better. And from what I've seen, so my answer would be listening, for sure.
So do you think secularism is important in maintaining that sort of platform where you can come together and communicate? Or can this conversation also happen just as easily in countries, for example, in an Islamic republic, in a Christian republic? Or is secularism important in that?
I mean, I think anyone can, I mean, we're all humans, right? Like, we're the human race. So maybe I'm idealistic or optimistic, but I mean, I tend to be somewhat of a reckless believer, but it feels like we all have access to that because we all have 2 ears and 1 mouth and 1 heart. And I feel like the Chinese character for, I think it's for leadership, or I mean, I'm forgetting in this moment. But we all have access to that, whether secular or not, or whether we all in one community belong to the same faith, and that feels wonderful for us. Great. I mean, what we're all really looking for is something to connect to that's bigger than us, and whether you call it love, or you call it a God, or you call it Mother Nature, or you call it the goodness in others, we all really just want something that fits with us. So, in my opinion, which is all I have, it feels like as long as people are open to, as long as people can have an open mind and an open heart, anything is possible. It's more just when people perhaps feel threatened by, well, if, it's that self-concept thing again, right? It's if I'm good and you're different, that must mean you're bad. And, if it's threatening my goodness, I want to push it away. And I think if we can create spaces that are safe enough, I think that's the key. The goal of having a brave conversation over coffee is to make that table such a safe place that people can say whatever is true for them. So I don't think you need to be secular or not, but that's just my opinion.
Thank you so much. Okay, so are there any questions for Elizabeth, Timea, or Dulmati? Anything about their experiences in the West, about Islamophobia in the West, perhaps?
Will it be religious tolerance or individual respect that should be the my question is that should it be religious tolerance or individual respect that you think would be the pillar for interfaith harmony?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
For the concept of interfaith harmony, should it the pillar for it be religious tolerance or individual respect? I mean,
Okay.
taking it completely out of the subject.
Yeah. So either, okay. Right. So I think the question is that if for interfaith harmony, would it be better to just focus on individual respect, or do we have to look at something broader, right? Like if we just learn to respect each other as individuals,
should we train ourselves to be more tolerant, or should we just exclude it from the subject at all?
Exclude tolerance. We didn't quite get the question, sorry.
I'm not able to say. Okay. The question at the end.
Would it be the same thing as saying that it's respect for their religion versus the respect for the individual that dominates the discussion?
I think that can be a way to put it, yes.
Yeah, so that's one way of putting it, that do you think it's respect for the individual or respect for the religion that should basically dominate the discussion on interfaith harmony? Like, can you respect the community without respecting the religion, or do they both need to go hand in hand? Like, say, what if you have disagreements with a religion, which I think could be normal with any religion, but you still need to respect the community. Is that possible? I'm sorry, can the panelists hear me? Hi.
Yeah.
Yes, so it's for all the panelists, and anyone can answer. Is it possible to disagree with the religion, perhaps, and still sort of promote interfaith harmony?
Um, I don't mind answering that. Um, I believe it's very possible because if you study history, you see so many places and time throughout the world where Muslims, Christian, Jews, people of all faith, Hindu, we all lived in harmony and peace. We always respected each other for who they were as a whole, even though they might have had a different religion. It is very possible. It's just that, you know, what we see in the media tells us a different story. You know, media just wants to focus a lot on the hate because they just want to get people to view their news channel or radio channel, wherever it may be. You know, if we do focus more on the good, we'll have more people who will realize that, hey, it's possible. Even throughout the Islamic history in Spain, where people from all faiths used to come and study and live together. The Muslims were leading, but Christians and Jews lived together in harmony and peace. And they were so in-depth in science, and they were bringing so much great to the civilization. We could see it throughout other parts of the world. Even today, like, you know, I know a lot of focus is on hate in the United States. Oh, the president and all this going on, but still there is a lot of faith. There's a lot of good people out there who wants the good to happen. It just, you know, it starts with the I instead of the we. In this part, we should be more about I starting to doing the good. You know, we shouldn't be always focusing on what are you doing? It's what I am doing. So even with my neighbors, you know, it's, you know, we don't have that neighborly love anymore in the United States, how we used to have in the past where we knew our neighbors. But, you know, instead of me just sitting there and say, well, you know, I've been living here for so many years and I don't even know my neighbor, I just got up and I say, hey, let me invite them over for some tea. And, you know, just talk. It takes those little things that you start to bring the other people who are different than you, whether it's even in religion, like even in Islam, we have different sects. We have to stop that division and just bring them in and invite them over to your house for a cup of coffee or tea, wherever it may be. And we could build that love again, make it stronger and more focus on that love that we have, that goodness we have, and show that respect. And that respect comes to everyone.
I totally.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
I was going to say, I totally agree. And I'm so glad you said that it starts with the I, because, I mean, if you think about it and you back up, you don't have to believe the same thing and agree with all of the actions that all of your friends and family members take, right? Like, but you can still respect and support and love them. So it doesn't really matter what someone chooses to believe or do or what their job is day to day. You can still respect and love and support that human simply because they're a human. But at the end of the day, it starts with you. I mean, you don't have any control over what anyone else does, but you do have control over yourself. So, I mean, I was raised to believe that if you're not part of the solution, then you're part of the problem. And if you want something to change, you complaining about what other people are doing isn't going to do anything. But if you can take your teeny tiny little action, sure, it might not change everyone all the time, but it'll change your perspective of it. And yes, and it's just inviting someone over for coffee if you feel like you don't know your neighbor. I mean, you could complain about that, or you could say, I'm going to change that. And it's just the first time you reach out. I think if we can just stop trying to blame others for things and, you know, look at the media, and that's a whole other topic. But if we can just trust ourselves more to take action, I think we would end up trusting others more too.
Yes, I agree.
Can
I
I
agree. I'm not sure if you
can
guys
I
can
add
hear me.
something to this?
Sure, go ahead.
So
So I can speak. I totally agree with both of you. It has to start with the I. As I explained my background and my difficulties coming over Islamophobia, I started with the I as well. But the first step was realizing that I have a problem. And I think what the thing is that most people, when they hate, they don't accept it as They just think that this is how it is. They don't think it's a problem. They hate somebody or a religion or a culture or a country because they think it's the right thing to do and they are right. So I think the first step is realizing that hating something or being afraid of something is not a permanent situation. It can be changed. And for me, what helped when I realized that I have a problem, and my fear of Muslims and Islam is not based on fact. I posted a picture on Instagram, and I asked people from around the world if anybody would be happy to host me for Ramadan, where I will be fasting with a Muslim family if I can find one. And to me, this experience like opened the world. I got so many messages from different countries. Like you name a country, and I got a message from there saying, "Look, Timea, we would be happy to host you during Ramadan." And I told them I will be making mistakes. I will be asking stupid questions, but I just want to experience and see what you do and feel how you feel and go through what you go through. And to me, it really helped when this family in Cairo accepted me. And I asked them to go to the prayers in the morning. I fasted with them. They let me watch their pray when they were praying with the whole family. And it was such a fantastic experience. And now it angers me when somebody says things like bad things about Islam or Muslims because, well, it angers me, and it also I don't blame those people because I've been there. It's just they were not exposed to the same experiences that I was. So the key is to make these experiences possible by talking on Skype, by inviting your neighbor to your house already, or just simply invite them to your mosque or church, but not to convince them to, convert into your religion, but simply to start a conversation and and just listen to each other.
Yeah, thank you, Jamia. That's lovely. I
Yes, and
think
I would
Sam.
like to add to that conversation. I would like to add to that point. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. And welcome, Sam.
Yes, so this is Chance Cessna. I wasn't able to be a part of the first session when you called me, um, but I believe that we can live together and respect one another as people of different faiths. So for me, I am here in the United States of America, and I'm currently in Los Angeles, California. And a little bit about my upbringing is I grew up in Chicago in the United States, and I was raised in the Christian faith. However, when I got to school and college, I began this search where I'm like, I don't want to just follow what my family is telling me to follow. I want to explore what I truly want to believe apart from anybody else's influences. So I began this journey searching for who God is and why he made me. So June 19th, 2011, when I was in school, um, I made a decision that I wanted to become a Christian because I wanted to become a Christian, not because of what my family wanted me to become. And I had this encounter with God that changed my life on June 19th, 2011. And it was the first time that I realized that God is not only real, but that God is alive and he's working in the lives of every person, every human, whether they are white, black, whether they are Muslim or a Christian or a Hindu, that God is alive and he's working. So what began to happen is once I began to really walk out my Christian faith, I began to witness things in my own life that were miraculous, miraculous. So for instance, as I began to start serving in my local church, I became a part of my local church and I started serving and I began to witness the power of Jesus, the power of Jesus. And when I say that is I would begin to pray for people and I would see in the church where people were sick and people were in wheelchairs and people were getting healed out of wheelchairs. People that had sicknesses in their body, they were being healed of sicknesses. They were being healed of diseases. And I realized that, yes, there are many faiths that believe in different things, but I wasn't quite yet seeing a power like that where people were actually being healed. So as I began to serve in the church, I began to also pray for people. And when I would pray for people, people would get out of wheelchairs that were in wheelchairs for years, people that could not walk, people that were paralyzed, people that had cancer, people that were sick. They begin to be healed. So that's when I realized the power of the Christian faith and the power of Jesus and how it's transformation in that. And I believe that it's a journey when it comes to discovering our own faiths and what we believe in. Yes, it's a journey that's personal to each person and unique to each person. But I know what I experienced was life changing. And not only that, now that I serve in my community and as I travel around the world, I'm seeing the evidence of walking by faith. I'm seeing the evidence of believing in Jesus because Jesus is the only one that actually laid his life down for his disciples. So he laid his life down so we can walk in this power, so we can walk in this freedom, so we can walk in a new, a new authority. So I'm just sharing a little bit about my Christian faith, but I believe that yes, we can all respect one another, and I believe that it takes conversation, us being able to sit down. I'm able to sit down, even though I'm a Christian and I believe in Jesus. I can sit down with a Muslim. I can sit down with an atheist. I can sit down with someone from the Hindu religion and have those conversations. So that's all I wanted to add.
Chance. And so just to introduce Chance, because I don't think we got a good chance to introduce Chance. So, I'm sure you've heard this a lot, Chance. So Chance is actually a television host. She's a producer. She is an author. She is a serial entrepreneur. She's brilliant, and we're very glad to have her here. She's been featured in ABC, NBC, all sorts of places. So Chance, I have a question for you as well. Do you think religion is important for spirituality, for us to have that spiritual satisfaction in life?
I believe your spirituality and your faith, right? What you believe in, because for me, it's about how can I have a real relationship with my creator? How can I have a real relationship in my faith? Because with religion, um, I think religion and my relationship with God is it's more than just a set of rules that I follow, right? I don't, growing up, when my parents raised me, it felt like a set of rules. And I'm like, I don't like feeling like it's just a set of rules. But it wasn't until June 19th, 2011, when I made my personal decision to become a Christian and have a relationship with God, a personal relationship, then I realized that that this thing is possible. So I believe that having faith is essential to your prosperity as a person. It's essential, because I've seen, like I said, I've seen people that were atheists that did not believe in God, and I would come and share my message and my story of faith, of the Christian faith, and I would pray for them, and they would be healed of whatever sicknesses that they had. And it completely changed their way of thinking. Like, maybe I should believe in God. Maybe I should have faith. Maybe I should become a Christian. So it can change you. So I believe that faith, faith in general, is powerful, to believe in something bigger than you, because we did not get on this earth by ourselves. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't get here by ourselves. There is something greater in us, and there's something greater that produced us. So I want to honor that and be open to that and watch miracles happen in my life, but also allow those miracles and witness those miracles happening in other people's lives across the world. Yeah. So
Thank
yes,
you.
I believe it's important to have faith. And but if you don't, that's fine. But that's where the conversations can begin.
Yeah, so Timea, can I ask the same question from you as well? Do you think religion is necessary for our spiritual fulfillment?
Um, I, as I said, I don't have a chosen religion, and I am happy living my life learning from different cultures and different religions without committing to any one in particular. And I try to be as good as possible. I try to help others and without asking for anything in return, or without thinking that if I do good in this life, I will be either rewarded or go to somewhere really nice. I just do things. Um, I think, well, I try to help whenever I can because I want to help. And I think religion is, well, I understand that it's important to some people, but if it's not the most important in your life, or if it's even if it's not present in your life, you can still live the life you want, and you can still be a good person. Did I answer?
Yeah, yes, please go ahead. So that's perfect. Okay, yeah, I have a question from the audience.
Is it possible it's now an okay time to ask a question? I was curious to ask something to our pizza, if she's still here.
Oh, so our Peter is just going to join us the next time.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll do that. So if you have a question, if anyone has a question for Elizabeth, Chance, Chance Cessna, Janea, or yes, okay. Okay, thank you everyone for coming. We are going to move on to the next panel for now. Are there any final remarks, anything else that you want to add?
I would like to add one final remark.
Yes.
Yes, so this is Chance. This is Chance Cessna. So, you mentioned the last question about, is it important to, maybe have a religion or have a faith? I believe that it is important to have some type of faith. And I say that because, a little bit about my story. When I was very young, my mother died. My mother died after suffering from a stroke. And after she died, I began to experience a lot of heartbreak and a lot of struggle in my life. After my mother passing away, a couple of years later, I found myself homeless and sleeping in my car. And I lost everything. I lost my house, I lost my clothes, I lost my shoes, I lost everything. So I found myself yet again saying, is there a God? Because I have lost everything and I've lost my mother. And how can I find my way? How can I use all of this pain that I've experienced? How can I use all of these tears that I've cried? And how can I find something bigger and believe in that and God to show himself strong in my life? So I went through that time period and I was homeless literally just 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was homeless and I lost everything. And fast forward to right now, because of me having faith, because of me believing in God's promise for my life, everything has turned around and I'm an author now, and my book debuted as the #1 new release on Amazon. I am extremely successful now, and God is opening up so many doors, but I didn't quit. I didn't quit. So I believe that faith is born through your adversity. Faith is born through your trouble. And I know that God is there when you feel lost, when you feel depressed, when you feel lonely, when you feel forgotten, when your family abandons you, when your friends walk away from you. God is there. And God lifted me up and he changed my entire life around. So I am a witness of the power of God and the power of faith being a Christian woman in the United States. So that was my final sentiment. Thank you. Hello.
We can move on to the next panel because they've been waiting for a long time, I think. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Chance, Elizabeth. Thank you, Gul McKay. And thank you, Janea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so we're going to introduce our next panelist. We have with us Pushpi Karbanda. We have Navdeep Singh. We have Arpita. And
Sadhana Sood.
sorry,
Sadhana Sood, if she does.
she's there, right? And we have Sadhana Sood. And I'm very sorry if I'm mispronouncing anyone's names in my weird South Asian. Yeah. It's Sadhana. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Sadhana.
This is Sadhana.
Right. So we're all learning here. So, yeah. Okay. So let's start with the same question that we've been asking everyone. What do you think is the best way to promote interfaith harmony? Or how do you think we can best get to know one another?
Hello. Can anyone hear me?
We can hear you, Arpita. Yes.
Okay. So according to me, what I feel to promote interfaith harmony, the first thing that we need to understand is we are humans. Before any religion, any caste, any culture, anything else, we need to realize that we are humans who have uh, who have the same color of blood, almost same apart from the differences between a man and a woman, the same bodies, and that is what we should consider first. For me,
Yeah.
I feel that and the best way to do is like everyone has said, by conversations, and also in conversations we also need to allow to criticize, because what nobody has mentioned here is the point of criticism. If you are not tolerant to criticism, then there is no point of having interfaith harmony. Absolutely no point.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So, can you tell us, Arpita, a little bit about your own beliefs, or are you religious personally?
No. Basically, I am an atheist, uh, and honestly, my story is a little bit unbelievable, but yeah, I'll tell you. Okay. My first round of questioning started when I was only 8 years old. I was in third class, and then I started then I started questioning about everything, like about and I tried to find answers myself. I asked my mother, I asked my grandmother, why do we have to do this? Why do we have to do this? I got an answer, but I wasn't satisfied. So I asked further. So, but ultimately, I wasn't satisfied with the answer because I could frame other questions. I was curious at that time. I wouldn't say I became an atheist then, but somewhere I was a little dicey. This thing happened till I guess I was 16. When I was 16, a very sad thing happened to me. My best friend of like about years, yeah, my best friend, he committed suicide. I was 16, he was 30. That changed my life completely. It was then I thought everyone advised me to pray. Like people wanted me to pray, people wanted me to uh, pray for afterlife, and may he get everything that he hasn't gotten this life in his afterlife, and many other things. I started believing in them. I did not think through my own mind. Then I started praying. I became religious till the time of 16 to 18. I used to pray every day, uh, which I haven't done even in the case when my mother was fighting depression. Earlier, I used to be like, I instead of praying, I used to act on things. For me, action action speaks louder than anything else. So I believed in action. So if something happens to me, my no, probably my reaction earlier was used to, how do we have to solve this? Instead of praying, instead of doing anything else, how would we solve this? What is the what is the root cause and what is the solution? That is the my point of thinking. But this thing has completely changed me. Then I guess I was 18 then. Slowly I started to realize that whatever happened to my friend cannot come back by praying, but I can make a difference by, instead of praying, I can make a difference by acting upon it, by acting on the root cause, and by identifying other people who go through the same thing and who are not able to express themselves. It was then slowly my mind started drifting away from religion, because and then also since I'm an avid reader, and also I also use Facebook a lot. I started delving into everything. Like mostly I have a Bible with me. I am also searching for a good Quran, Quran Sharif with translations. Also, I do have Vedas with me. I haven't just got the time to read it. So, and also I do have some atheist as well. So I'm into exploring, but yeah,
Right. I'm sorry. I think your voice is beginning to break. I'm just going to move on to Pushpeek for a second. Right. Hi, Pushpeek.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, yes, we can hear you perfectly. So Pushpit Karwalla, he's a food blogger, and he's, I think, the only person that I know who danced Bhangra on a TEDx stage, and that's brilliant. Uh, you've been working a lot with, I think, different communities as well, and of course, as a blogger, I think you've come across a lot of different people in your life. So, what are what are some of the misconceptions, some of the negative stereotypes about your community? Can you think of anything that you would like to maybe talk about or clear up?
Can you please repeat your question? What sort of misconceptions?
Any misconceptions about the Sikh community, their values, their customs, or any negative stereotypes about the Sikh community?
Sure. So, before I start, I would love to tell you how special this whole thing is. Talking to people in Pakistan uh, has always been a dream to me, and I'll actually come to the point why it is a dream come true. If you don't mind, I'll come to your question in a few minutes, if that's okay. So, I was probably 17 when I got to know when I actually got exposed to the culture in Pakistan, and with so much happening all around, it was really saddening. In fact, you guys are in Islamabad, exactly 150 kilometers from you is a town called Hoti in Mardan, which is where my grandparents come from. They came all the way to Delhi during the time of partition in 1947. And since then, I've actually felt that the Pakistani culture is very similar to my own culture. So much so that in 2011, if I'm not wrong, uh, I started a blog on Tumblr. It still exists, but we don't post a lot on it. I started a blog on Tumblr with two ladies from Pakistan, and we used to talk about it a lot, and it actually catered to a lot of NRI crowd. NRI is non-resident Indians, and obviously people from Pakistan as well who are there. There were a lot of people who used to follow that blog and talk to us through that. And we used to talk of interfaith harmony and of a time where, all of us would have a stage common to us and talk about this. And I think this is what is happening right now. So that's why it sounds like a dream come true. Coming
So,
to, yeah, yeah. So coming to having misconceptions about Sikhism, I personally am not a very staunch Sikh. I follow Sikhism, but I consider myself more to be a spiritual person. So much so that I believe all the religions, each and every major religion on the world, uh, says the same thing altogether. We actually say there are a lot of religions, but there's just one religion, and that is humanity. In fact, I'll just pull up my screen and wanted to show you something. Um, I had this slide. Can you see my screen right now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. If you see this, these are some words from the various scriptures. All of them were written and told at different times by saints, by different saints, by different sages in different languages. But all of them are actually talking about loving the mankind, about loving humanity, irrespective of any other thing. So it's just so beautiful how all these cultures, sorry, how all these religions are basically saying the same thing, and still, a lot of misconceptions are there all around. I guess the most important thing is communication. Once you start communicating with people, because a lot of time it happens that media tells us biased information. I mean, I'm not pointing fingers at the media, but me being in Pakistan might see a one-sided story, and me being in India might see another sided story. So the best idea here is communicate. Communicate about your faith, about your culture, about your feelings, and you'd love to see how the walls that you thought existed so strongly weren't actually there. I'd let you continue if you want to add anything.
So Pushpin, have you ever been to Pakistan?
Oh, I'd love to. Trust me, I would love to. I'd love to come down here and have some kadai and Kabuli pulao and whatnot. I have a huge list.
Right, because I think my father has been to India, like at least a couple of
Okay.
times, and he's met like several members of the Sikh community, both cultural and religious, and he has like the most flattering word for him for them usually, and it's just kind of a bit unfortunate that like we said, despite being pretty close to one another geographically, there's very little communication going on. Yeah.
Inshallah,
So,
sometime soon. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you. So, we're going to Nadeep. Nadeep Singh, are you there?
I, I see.
Yeah, I don't think Nadeep is there with us right now. Okay.
Jawad and Sadhana Su.
Okay, Sadhana, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, so how are you doing, Sadhana?
yes, I'm listening you.
Right, so you're joining us from India. So which city in India are you in right now?
Pardon? Yes,
Are you joining?
yes, I'm going to join.
अब सिर्फ उर्दू में बात करने सारे उर्दू समझ
Right. आप अगर मैं उर्दू में बात करूँ आप समझ लेंगे क्योंकि I think
Yes, I can speak in English, Hindi, Urdu, Punjabi.
सही है। साधना आप किस शहर से ताल्लुक रखती हैं या किस शहर से हैं आप?
मैं धनबाद से, this place is धनबाद near Calcutta, Jharkhand, famous for coal mine. Famous for coal mine. My place is famous for coal mine.
ठीक है, आपका काफी यानी मल्टी कल्चरल एक्सपीरियंस है, आपने काफी मुख्तलिफ जगहों से इंडिया में भी। तो आप अपने थोड़े can you talk a bit about your own faith? Like, are you a religious person?
Yes, I fully agree with my this previous panelist that God is one. Every religion teaches us love, acceptance. Not I'm not talking about tolerance. Acceptance. We should accept every person as he is, as they are. We should accept every person like that. And is best way to promote this interfaith harmony is to teach our children, those who are the future of the world. We should teach our children the value education, try to inculcate moral values so that they should respect each religion. They should respect each religion and this and they should accept the good things of every religion and they have the courage to reject the evils of every. Have you heard about Saint Kabir? Saint Kabir, Saint Kabir. On those, in those days, Saint Kabir said he had the courage to this courage to.
Right. So, Sadhna, I'm just going to interrupt for just a second. I'm sorry about that. We're having some trouble hearing you. Is it possible to maybe move to a different room or a different location? Okay. So, I'm sorry about that. I'm going to go back to Arpita for a little bit. Arpita, are you there? Can you unmute yourself, Arpita?
Yeah. I did.
There we go. So we had a question for you, and we had a question for you even before you were officially on the panel. So it,
She actually confused
I confused her with Zoe. I meant to ask the
Oh,
question for
I
Zoe.
think
but
Zoe is
she
also
disappeared.
She went away. आपने कुछ पूछा?
sorry about that. Sorry about that. No worries. Okay. Okay. So Arpita, let's talk about you for a bit. So belonging to a non-religious minority in India, and India, I think, is a very multi-religious, multicultural country. So have you ever personally faced any?
Excuse
Can you
me,
hear me?
can you repeat the question, please?
So have you ever faced any kind of discrimination for being non-religious in India?
It's an interesting story, I would say. Uh, Actually, among my friends, I don't face any discrimination. Although some of the people they do ask me why don't I. But then, in relatives and in many in my relatives, I am seen as an outcast. In my relatives, I am seen as an outcast.
Okay, I'm sorry, we didn't catch all of that. I think it's because we're having some trouble with the connection. Pushpita, are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the connection, we were just basically checking if the connection is basically problematic on our end. Or, okay, so you can hear us.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello? Hello, yes. Santana, are you there?
I think she doesn't realize that she's on mute right now.
Sadhana, can you unmute yourself?
Sadhana, you're on mute. Can you unmute yourself? If you touch the screen, it would be the first button on the left, first icon on the left.
Yeah. There we go. Sadhana, can you hear us now? Sadhana? I think.
Yes. Hello.
Hello. Yes. So can you say something, because I think we're having some trouble with the internet connection.
No people will
Right.
I think with what
Yes,
Anjali
I
said,
Maybe we can have a conversation about.
yeah, we can invite Jawad.
Yeah.
And
Okay, so just so I think Jabbat Tasmi is here, and he's been waiting for a very long time.
yes, we're really sorry for that.
Yeah. So Jabbat, can you come over and maybe? So Jabbat, for people who are not aware, he's the head of Suez Hussain. It's a very important organization. They're doing a lot of brilliant work with blood donation, awareness, and lots of campaigns. So maybe can you tell us a bit what is Suez Hussain?
Sure, sure. Assalamualaikum everyone. I'm Jawad Qasmi and I'm head of Hussain in Pakistan chapter. Hussain basically is a global campaign. We try to serve humanity. We take inspiration from the personality of Hussain ibn Ali. And those who are Muslims mostly know who Hussain ibn Ali is, grandson of Holy Prophet Muhammad peace be upon him. So we take inspiration from his personality and we try to serve humanity all across the world, irrespective of any difference. And the Pakistan chapter, it started in 2013 and 2014, and since then we have served thousands of meals. We have treated thousands of patients in free medical camps. We have given ration to deserving families. We have organized blood donations, awareness campaigns, educational campaigns, and a lot of events throughout the country. Coming towards Interfaith Harmony, uh, how much time do I have? Don't worry about it. All right, that's. So coming towards Interfaith Harmony, if I talk about Interfaith Harmony in the perspective of Islam and as a Muslim, I would say I would quote saying of Imam Ali, and he wrote a letter to his governor, Malik Esther, and he said there are two kinds of people. Either one, your brother in faith, and the other equal in humanity. Human beings, as human beings, they commit sins, they are disabled, they commit vices. So be generous to them. You have to be merciful upon them as a governor, as you expect your God, Allah, to be merciful upon them. So we understand from this instruction to his governor that compassion, love, mercy, forgiveness, all these virtues and values are common for all human beings, and there should be no discrimination based on any religion or any belief or any system or any ideology any person or individual follows. And coming towards now, who is Hussain? Remember this year in February, the Interfaith Harmony Week UN celebrates from 1st of Feb to 7th of Feb, and we organized an event in Gurdwara Kartarpur Sahib. We organized, there were people from 4 religions, Muslims, Christians, Hindus, and Sikhs. And there were almost 500 families. They were invited to Gurdwara Kartarpur Sahib, and the event was organized by Hussain Pakistan chapter, and around 70 volunteers joined the event from all across the country, and the purpose was again to promote interfaith harmony. And all those families who were present over there, they came to Gurdwara. They belonged to different religions, but there was something common in that, and that common thing is something all humans need. They were all poor. They were all deserving families. So we provided ration to them, and we provided meals to them. And the message was, if we think about humanity and the humans which are suffering all across the world, and we try to cater to that need, we can become together. We can forget, we can put the differences in the background and look at their needs and try to fulfill them. And that is how I believe through our platform we promote interfaith harmony.
Thank you so much. Let's talk about your community in particular. So, what are the particular struggles, either political or social, that your community is facing? And do you have any advice on how the government can actually help, how they can intervene, and what the people can do to help this community?
Or what is that in your community?
What do you mean by my community? As a Muslim?
As a sect.
So I belong to Shia Muslim community of Pakistan, and I've never tried to hide it in anywhere, wherever I live, or study, or work, and I've been very vocal about it as well. So obviously, when there's a difference, you face questions. People try to ask you why you are following certain way, and they try to reason. So that is there. But if I come towards the political and the other aspects, we have to understand one thing. I believe that if we try to involve politics in such sort of matters, it always gets, I would use the word polluted. Go honest, it cannot stay honest because there are other motives behind it. We can always try to push authorities to be more tolerant, to give people their rights, right of freedom, right to practice religion, right to live, anything, any path they want to follow. But other than that, the discussion we had previously, someone said, it starts with I. So as part of the community of this country or wherever you live, we should try to play our part, act, help people, try to bring people together, as well as try to interact and try to put obviously pressure on government authorities to take concrete steps. But I believe there's always good things written, maybe in the constitution, on the paper, but unfortunately they are not being followed or being implemented.
Okay, so coming back to our friends in India, so we just talked a little bit about Pakistan, say the minorities in Pakistan, the minority sects in Pakistan. Can you tell us a little bit about your country in India? So, what is the state of religious minorities there in India? Are there any ongoing steps to improve, say, the freedom or the rights, not improve, but improve the freedom of the religious minorities?
I would add in something here, just like the person right before me said. He very well mentioned how having politics involved somehow pollutes the spiritual or the religious aspect of it. And we have been seeing this since time immemorial. Um, in fact, even the partition was not really religious in the sense, but politically. So,
Okay. No, I think we've lost Pushpi. Arpita, are you still there?
am I audible?
You're back. Congratulations. You're back.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry.
I want to share.
yeah, we kind of lost you in the middle. Could you please go on?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I'll just add in real quick. So, yeah, there are problems. There definitely are problems. And there are a lot of people, a lot of youth uh, which is getting together and speaking about it, not just on the religious front, but in fact on a humanitarian front. So things like these happen a lot in India, and that is how they are being taken care of. Um, Back to the others in India. I think they wanted to add something.
Right, thank you. So Zoe, are you still there with us? Zoe?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, hi. So we actually had a question waiting for you. We're so glad that you're still here. Yeah. So that's Zoe.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I got you messed up with one of the other panelists, so I'm so happy you're still here.
Sorry, I
First,
have actually had a crazy day, and that's why I had to step out for about half an hour.
So I think it's really interesting that we're here talking about like matters of interfaith, and you grew up in an interfaith household. And I just wonder, I'm a psychologist by training, and I wonder what it was like for you as a child. I think a lot of parents would think that raising a child in a specific religious tradition is very organizing, and it can kind of help them to make whatever decisions they want to later in life. So I'm wondering if it felt confusing to you at all that your parents were practicing different faiths, or if that was helpful that that was set up like that. And also if there were any communal religious and or spiritual practices that your parents had together or that you had as a family. And I guess then the final question would be, like, how was it for your father and your family dynamic as a whole when you decided to be baptized and become a Christian?
So, can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder whether sometimes I'm told that I downplay certain things, so I don't know whether I'm being completely honest in what I say, but um, I don't think I found it confusing as such, in the sense that I think it was very clear that, this is the way it is. Dad's a Parsi, mom's a Christian, and, I have a choice of, what I want to be. In a way, it's almost like I kind of liked the idea of not having to being born into something and having that openness. And I think that in a way, it actually made me be more open spiritually. I think for a while I even was interested in Buddhism. I'm very much into meditation. I keep studying about different religions, a little bit, very surface level, of course. But I think that sort of did inspire that sort of curiosity in me. So I wouldn't say I was confused. I think I was only confused when I was pressured, because I didn't think I wanted to side with each one. I kind of had this philosophy that, look, I believe that being part of an organized religion is that's man-made, right? And that one spirituality is something that's very personal. So I said, why should I have to, get on that man-made path and get physically baptized or get physically, what you have now in the Parsis? I didn't feel like I needed to have that. But my parents did feel that. My mother, she to this day, she'll say, I always felt we should have just, made you guys, given you guys something and let you just follow it. And each time I'll tell her, I said, why? I think we've turned out okay. I think at the end of the day, your upbringing and your beliefs are very much formed by the morals and ethics that you're brought up with. So I think that was the stronger hold in the family. Um, uh, Down to the second question, which was, I think you had said that, I'm not sure what the second part of that question was.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We kind of lost you a little bit in the middle. Can you repeat what you said at the end? Zoe, can you repeat?
I had said that basically I don't think that I was very confused until I was forced to choose some, not forced, but until pressure was put on me that zip, so you need to make a decision. I think that's when I felt most confused.
Yeah.
because I felt that, I don't want to choose a man-made, this man-made thing. I think, did you get that part, or am I repeating the same thing?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry, I think we're having connection problems with you again, but thank you, Zoe. I hope that.
Can you hear me a little bit better now?
A little, yeah, it's a bit better now. Yeah.
She want to clarify.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello. Hi, Zoe. Can you say something maybe?
Can you hear me now better?
Yes, there's a bit of delay, but you can hear it.
Yeah, there's a tiny little bit of delay. But as I said, these are questions that I keep asking myself, because I think now that, I am married and I am going to have children or hope to have children, I've come to the same question. Is what my parents did correct? Should I choose for my children what they should be, or should I give them the choice? And I think, as far as my own experience is concerned, I think I really liked having that openness. I liked having that, the flexibility to explore the religion. And let me tell you that even now, when I've got baptized, I actually got baptized in order to marry my Muslim husband. Because if you don't have Pakistan according to the law, if you don't belong to a religion, you are not what they call of the book. So I had to actually become of the book in order to marry him. And of the book meant either a Jew or a Christian or a Muslim. And because I was so close to the Christian faith, I thought that made more sense. So that's why I actually got baptized.
Thank you so much, Zoe. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so I think we are almost out of time. We have like 8 minutes remaining. So, are there any questions for the panel for Zoe, for Gurpreet, Sadhana, or Arpi? Okay, so any of you have any closing remarks, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just want to share one my personal experience. During this summer, in April, May, I was going to Punjab from Delhi. I was going to Punjab. I met an old lady, Punjabi old lady, more than 70 years old, and she was coming from Pakistan. And on the way, she talked to me and she told me that in Punjabi, she told me कि लोग लाहौर दे लोग कितने चंगे हैं. They are Lahori people, they are very good, because she bought slippers and salwar kurta from there, and she told me that they had not take any price for that. So ਉਹ ਲੋਗ ਬੋਲਦੇ हैं ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਪੜੋਸੀ ਹੋ, ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੋਂ ਪੈਸੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੈ ਸਕਦੇ, we don't want to take money from you. So when I understand that people, general people, they don't have any hate, they are not jealous of each other, they don't have any hate. Our politicians, they do all these things, create all these problems. I come to know that Jannat, जब वो वहां गई तो बोली थी कितने चंगे लोग हैं. She told this thing कि the Lahori people, they are the Pakistani people, they are very good. So this is my personal experience. So I just want to say we have to change our thinking. We have to change our thinking. As said कि पैर की मोच और गंदी सोच हमें आगे बढ़ने नहीं देती. पैर की मोच, गंदी सोच हमें आगे बढ़ने नहीं देती. मेरा मजहब ऊंचा, दूसरे का नीचा, ये सोच हमें इंसान बनने नहीं देती. जिस दिन the day we start accepting every religion, start accepting the people the way they are, all problems will be solved.
I really love that. That's a great quote.
Hello.
Hello, yeah.
I would like to add something as the only person who is representing atheists. There are some misconceptions which I wanted to clear out. First of all, I am in mostly people believe that we are against all religions, but we are just asking for the freedom to leave, as well as while we respect you believing your, the thing is that the people who don't want to believe your thing, they should be allowed to leave, and that too peacefully. Debates should be encouraged, but they should not go up to the level of abusing or threatening people to kill them. That is my main point. No, we are not. No, we are not immoral. No, being atheist does not mean that I advocate murder or advocate crime. It simply means that for me, I don't borrow morals from religion. I rather than that, I borrow. I or even if anyone, we borrow any atheist. We borrow morality from what we think. And majority of us, we don't think murder is right, or we don't think rape is right. So we are not immoral people. We are not baby eaters. We are not, and we are not against any religion. We just want the freedom to leave, as you have the freedom to follow. That is all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arpita, and that's very important. Anybody else with any closing remarks?
I'll just add one thing. My spiritual mentor once said, "जो भी बनो मुबारक है, पर पहले इंसान बनो," which really translates to be whatever you want to be any sort of religious person, do whatever you want to do in your life as an occupation, but be a human first, because it was a human that came in first and the religions followed, and religions are for people and people are not for religions. So I think that idea, if we have it instilled in our minds, interfaith harmony won't really be difficult at all. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So one more question for Zoe. Thank you, Pushpin.
So I thank you for your time. Just wanted to ask two questions along the same lines. Growing up in two separate, growing up in a religion, in a household where two separate religions were accepted and practiced, were there any shared rituals as a family that you guys participated in? And the last question is that once you choose your religion, how did that alignment had any impact, positive or negative, on your relationship with your father? That wasn't that question was going.
Hello.
Okay, Zoe, did you get the question?
Yes, I did. I think the second part of the question I didn't get, which you said that once I chose my religion, that what was the rest of that question?
So the question was, I think, first, that were there any shared rituals in the household where each parent is from a background? And do you think that kind of alignment did anything to change your perspective of, I think, the way that you see religion?
Two parts. The first part.
So as far as the shared rituals are concerned, sorry, I'm moving around a lot because I'm actually trying to find a place where the internet is best. I'm guessing I'm in that corner of the room. I'm further away from my router, which is why I'm moving around a little bit. So, in answer to the first question, which was shared rituals, as I had said before, my mother was the one who was always much more gung ho about the rituals and keeping up the rituals, especially the Christian rituals. So, definitely, and my father, very wholeheartedly, was always a part of that. In fact, up to the time that he was well, I think towards the end, his health was incredibly poor. But up till the time that he was able to, he used to come to church with us every Easter, every Christmas. My father was a big part of all those rituals. In fact, we to this day, Christmas is a huge thing for us. I mean, from 1 month before, all the raisins and the almonds and all the dry fruit is bought, and then it's sorted, make the Christmas cake. We make all the separate, we have these little round things called kalkas, we make wine. So we are, to this day, I still bring this tradition into my new home. So that ritual was always shared between the mother and the father and the entire family. So it never felt like any of us were separate in any way. Because as I said, at the end of the day, the ethics, the morals, the main grounding, those were the things that were were all shared. And as far as choosing my religion and what impact that had, as I had said before, I only actually chose to be baptized because I had to because I had to choose a religion in order to sign the paperwork and marry a Muslim man. Because the Muslim religion, especially in Pakistan, requires you to be of the book. And being a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim was what made me off the book. That's why I got baptized. And ever since I've been baptized, I don't think that has changed anything in me. Because again, as I said, the institution and the man being part of it, I just did that to stay with the law. But I think my spirituality and my belief system, that has stayed the same, which is an amalgamation of, at least to the religions that I do know well are Islam, Zoroastrianism, and Christianity.
Thank you so much. I think that's all the time we have. Are there any final questions that anyone would like to ask?
They asked the question that did it affect her relationship with her father when she chose?
Right. So the second part of the question basically was when you say chose Christianity, when you chose to be baptized, did it affect your relationship with your other parent, your father?
Not at all. Not at all. In fact, I think when we were young, I think we had that fear that, will my dad be a little upset? Because my dad was the most sensitive of the parents. So I remember there was that fear that he would feel sort of left out or that he didn't play his role well in making us fully aware of religion. I remember there was a tiny little bit of guilt growing up. But he made it very clear to us. He says, to me, it's more important that you are good human beings, and that you're kind to humans, you're kind to animals, you're kind to others. He says that's more important to me, not what religion you choose. In fact, he didn't even practice, the actual rituals of his religion. He was more about the overarching good thoughts, good words, good deeds. And he says, no matter what religion you are, if you carry this into your lives, that then my job is done.
Okay, thank you so much, Zoe. Thank you to all our panelists who were able to come. Zoe?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you all the panelists for joining. And I'm very sorry if there are a few panelists who we would have wanted to discuss this issue in more detail but weren't able to because of technical issues. And I'm very sorry to them as well. But thank you all for coming. Thank you in our mission to help promote interfaith harmony, to help us understand one another, our religious beliefs, our values, our cultural beliefs. And I'm just going to have to say goodbye at this point. So thank you so much.
Thanks for organizing this.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Welcome. You're welcome, dear.